3 Creepy Tales by KB Hurst. The Ghost Hunt. The last day before the end of summer break, Jason, Terrence, and Felicia decided it would be fun to borrow Felicia's aunt's ghost box. It was a small radio device that when you used it to ask questions, you got answers from supposed spirits in the form of actual speaking words. Her aunt said to make sure that they blessed it with sage before and after they did their little seance. They grabbed some sage, a lighter, and then tried to decide where they'd do their ghost hunt. They thought about Terrence's old attic, but decided that his parents would be home, so they didn't want any distractions. Felicia decided they should check out the recently shut down Autumn Springs Retirement Center. It had been shut down because some of the patients and residents accused the facility of abusing the elderly residents. One too many lawsuits, and it was over. "We should go to Forest Park where that college guy hung himself," Terrence said. "No, there might be other people there, and we don't want any interference," Felicia said. "It's cool, fine. Let's go to Autumn Springs." The three packed up their bags, grabbed a candle, sage, some matches, and the ghost box. When they got to Autumn Springs, they easily found a basement window that was unlocked. The three of them climbed in, one at a time. When they got inside, the stillness was creepy. The building was dark, and there was medical equipment in the basement they were in. Felicia noticed the smell was musty, and as they managed to move around, they found some stairs to a long hallway. Once in the hallway, they decided to settle with their equipment. Sitting on the floor in the hallway, they sat in a little circle. Felicia then lit the candle and burnt the sage. The darkness made it seem quieter and a bit creepy. The candle caused their shadows to hang above them in the long hallway. Felicia looked around in anticipation, wondering if they'd contact any spirits. When she pulled out the ghost box, she sat it in the middle of the circle they created with their knees. "Who wants to go first?" Felicia asked. "I'll go," Terrence said. "Okay." Felicia turned on the ghost box, and the static seemed to echo in the hall. "Is there anyone who wants to communicate with us?" The ghost box seemed to be switching through AM channels too quickly to try to make out any actual words.
"2.
"Huh," said Felicia. The three of them looked at one another, sure they had heard something. "I'll go next," Jason said. "So, what's your name?"
John in cars. Fun. Night.
The ghost box turned off. They weren't sure what that meant. "This is stupid," Jason said finally. As he said this, a loud bang was heard from upstairs on the second floor. "What is that?" Felicia asked. "I'll go see," Jason said, putting on a brave face. Felicia and Terrence both looked at each other. Standing up, they watched Jason run up the second flight of stairs using his cell phone's flashlight to light his way. It was quiet now. The candle suddenly went out, and Felicia looked at Terrence. "Shit, where's my matches?" Terrence turned on the light from his phone and turned it towards the stairs. 10 minutes went by when they heard Jason screaming. Terrence ran towards the basement stairs now. "Where are you going?" Felicia yelled. "If something is killing Jason, I ain't sticking around to die next. Come with me, we'll call the cops." "No, you go. I have to help Jason." Terrence wasted no time. He was gone before she could talk him into helping her. She braced herself to go up the stairs. She walked slowly, shaking, but telling herself that Jason was probably just messing with them. When she got to the top of the stairs, she whispered for Jason. "Jason, where are you?" There was no response. She noticed off to one end of the hallway there was a light coming from one of the rooms. She thought Jason had to be where the light was. I mean, that had to be him, right? When she got closer to the light, she realized it was inside of one of the old resident rooms. As she got closer, she heard whispering. There was more than one person talking. When Felicia reached the room, she couldn't see Jason anywhere. She slowly crept into the room, and that's when she lost it. There was a skeleton chained to the bed, and in the corner of the room was a man watching the chained-up person. Felicia screamed, and then Jason came up behind her. "Help me!" Felicia looked at the bed, then the skeleton moved. Felicia screamed again. "A person's alive!" Turning to look at the man who was across the room, she realized he had blood on his head. "He's dead. Come help me with her." Felicia snapped out of it long enough to help Jason pry her thin hands and wrists out of the chains. It was an older woman who looked like she'd been nearly starved to death. The woman whispered to both of them, "Thank you." The cops arrived shortly after. Terrence had called them, as promised. They soon learned the man that was dead was a former janitor of Autumn Springs, and on the last day he was there decided to hide his mother from the staff, so he kidnapped her, keeping her there to starve to death so that he could collect the life insurance money. In the end, guilt overloaded him and he'd shot himself, literally right before we got there that day. Believing it was too late for him to save his mother, I guess he saw no other choice. The woman, who was later revealed as Mrs. Stanton, was only a woman in her late 60s. She'd never been sick a day in her life. She only looked so scary from starvation. Mrs. Stanton ended up sending the 3 teenagers a reward sum of money. It was for their college funds, of course. It was the least the old woman could do. That was the last time Felicia, Terrence, and Jason, though. They decided never to go ghost hunting again. The Psychic. Evelyn, known as Madame Evelyn, a known renowned psychic, sat looking at her crystal ball. She had been scamming the locals for years and sometimes really did try to conjure up real spirits to help the customers. She wasn't any good at it, of course. It gave them just enough to want to come back. She wasn't doing them any harm, she was just giving people hope and making a pretty dime off of it. Evelyn put the old thing back in the box to pack it away, recalling the sinister presence that had shown itself to her only a week ago. She no longer wanted to touch her crystal ball. She had been dreaming of dinner with a very wealthy man. He'd been handsome, was not only wealthy, but he was kind, attentive, and had a boat, which sailing had always been her favorite pastime. The dinner with her handsome stranger was interrupted by a devilish figure, though. His face was half skeletal. The other was charred, and his eyes were deep red. "Evelyn, you can have all of this and more if you just keep on doing my bidding," the horrifying entity said to her. I don't understand. "All of your magic, scrying, and so-called readings come from demons, and the money you scam these poor souls out of is partly from my help. Just keep going, and then you can give me your soul. In the meantime, I will give you everything that you have ever wanted." Evelyn woke at that moment, sweat pouring down her forehead. Evelyn looked at her clock. It was just after 8 a.m. She hopped into the shower and tried to forget the nightmare. She just stepped out of the shower when a tall, angelic-like figure appeared in front of her. Evelyn wanted to scream, but a calm came over her. "Who are you?" "My name is not important, but I'm a messenger from God. You must stop these New Age acts. You must stop being a fortune teller. You must stop doing all of this. You have to stop scamming these poor people out of their money. If you do even one more incantation, tarot spread, or communicate with so-called spirits, they're really just demon in disguise. Your soul is going to belong to them, and there will be no salvation for you, Evelyn. With that, the figure disappeared. Evelyn was so scared by it that she swore to never give a reading again. She was trying to relax when there was a knock at her door one afternoon. Answering it, she saw a very disheveled man standing in front of her. "Are you Madame Evelyn?" Yes, I mean, formally Madame Evelyn. You can call me Evelyn. Look, I know I don't have an appointment or anything, but you see, I'm desperate. My 7-year-old son went missing, and I've run out of options. One of my friend's wives said you might be able to help. That could have been anyone, she thought. She gave a lot of parties and charged hundreds of dollars for them. Look, I'm sorry, I no longer give readings. I'm sorry, I can't. Attempting to close the door, the man stuck his foot in between the door, but the look in his eyes told her that he was serious. "Please, ma'am." Evelyn sighed, seeing the desperate man. She had children herself. What if one of them went missing? Now her heart was breaking for him. Surely breaking the rules to save a life would overrule the angel's bargain? She let him inside, and the man pulled out a photo of his son. Evelyn was not sure she'd be able to muster even the tiniest reading for him, but then something happened. Holding the photo, she could suddenly, really and truly pick up on where this man's son was. She was amazed that she was actually doing it for real. The details she gave were so accurate. The man later used the details to give to the detectives, and to their shock, they found the little boy alive. Evelyn was an immediate success. Shortly after, the man gave a press conference and thanked Evelyn. She was watching the man give the teleconference on television when she noticed he began to shape-shift in front of her eyes. Standing before the crowd was the sinister creature that she had seen in her dreams. No one else in the crowd could see who the father really was, except for Evelyn. A part of her now was lost forever, knowing that what she had done, she had only done because she thought she was doing something noble. She felt part of her soul leave her body at that moment. I just want to let Madame Evelyn know how much I appreciate what she's given me. His wicked, soulless eyes smiled at her through the TV. He laughed, and the crowd at the press conference clapped and clapped. The Cheerleader. I moved to a new town in 10th grade. My parents decided they'd have more opportunities near the city. They moved 10 miles outside the city to a small town called Autumn Springs. I was shy back then and didn't make friends easily. My first class on my first day of school was English literature, and I sat towards the back, so nobody would notice I existed. There were some girls sitting in the front of class and kept turning to look at me and then giggling. That's when I heard someone whisper at me, "Hey, new girl!" I turned to see a girl sitting with 2 pigtails, dressed in a yellow and red cheerleading outfit. "Hey," I said back. "Don't pay attention to them. What's your name?" "Lynn. What's yours?" "Demi Mercobi." From that day on, we talked every day. She was becoming my best friend, and by the end of that semester, when Christmas break rolled around, I'd invited her over for dinner and a movie night. She seemed excited and we planned a time. But the time came and went. Demi was a no-call. I had tried calling her house because she didn't show, and she didn't have a cell phone. I didn't get anything except a busy signal. 2 weeks later, when winter break was over, I expected to see Demi in class, but nothing. After several days, she did show back up. She tried to tell me about her break, but I wasn't interested anymore. I was upset, and I let it show. If you don't want to be my friend, all you had to do was say so. Debbie tried apologizing, saying her parents could be really strict. I did finally forgive her, but there was just something off about her that I didn't notice at first. At least not until her no-call, no-show. One afternoon, I was sitting at the lunchroom table expecting to see Demi, but she didn't show up to lunch either. I figured she must have gotten stuck in class. Another girl came over then and asked me if she could sit at my table. She was really perky and really friendly. Her name was Jessica, and I learned she was nicknamed Bubbles for always being so cheerful. We made plans to sit at lunch the next day. After lunch, I was walking to my locker when Demi came up and tapped me on my shoulder. "Hey, so sorry I missed lunch. I saw you talking to Jessica. She's a really nice person. You guys should definitely be friends." "I mean, I like her a lot, but you're my best friend." Demi seemed down when I said this. "What's wrong, Demi?" "Oh, nothing. I just don't want you to miss out on making friends because of me." "Oh, don't be silly. We can all be friends. Tomorrow, I expect to see you at the lunch table with Jessica and me." "I'm not really sure I can make it." "Oh, Mr. Humphrey giving you guys loads of homework then?" I teased. "I just can't make it. Lynn, in fact, I might not ever make it again. Just promise me you'll be friends with Jessica, okay?" "Okay?" I thought nothing else of it after a while. We talked about an upcoming basketball game, and she said she'd be there cheering them on. The next day, I was sitting at the lunch table when Jessica came over. "Hi!" "Hey, have you seen Demi Marcobi by chance today?" "Demi Marcobi? You're joking, right?" "No, she was supposed to meet us both for lunch." And Demi Marcobi died in a fire here in the cafeteria way back in 1985. "I think someone is playing a cruel joke on you," Jessica said, putting her hand on my shoulder, concerned. Jessica explained that as part of a hazing cheerleading captain, Demi got locked in the cafeteria. The girls had turned all the lights out, and because it was dark, a fire broke out when Demi accidentally knocked over oil onto the stove. It was a real tragedy. Still not believing it, Jessica showed me an old memorial outside the school, one I had never even noticed before. How was this possible? I never saw Demi again, but Jess and I are still the best of friends. I would like to think Demi had a hand in that.